Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome in here to the Powercat Postgame Podcast. No Fitz today. I am sitting in for Fitz as the host, Carmody, with Monte Spiller and Big D, Brien Hanley, former Kansas State offensive lineman, Mr. Hanley, former Kansas State defensive back, Mr. Spiller, as we are set to break down Kansas State's 24-21 loss at the hands of Army. And guys, there's so much to look at with this game, and we're going to talk about all of it. The good, the bad, if there was any good. There was definitely a lot of bad. We'll get into it. And I want to start first with Brien because I was seeing some of your tweets throughout the game, and I think that anyone who watched that game has very similar feelings to you. But now that you've kind of had some time to think about it, what was your reaction and kind of maybe not overreaction, but what was your reaction to the game that took place last night?
I mean, nothing really changed for me from what I was tweeting out last night. I'm not a big tweet guy, but I try to stay engaged. But look, the thing is, Kansas State, for basically the third game in a row, got physically whipped. I mean, it just comes down to that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Mm-hmm. We can sugarcoat it. We can do whatever we want. But first of all, I think there's not enough truth-telling that's probably going on in that locker room. I'll be honest with you. There's not enough. Well, if I have to be that person outside the locker room, I'll be that. They got physically beat up by a team that you should just be able to line up and run over, and that's what happened. Now, we'll get into the specifics and all that a little bit later, but that's basically what it came down to, guys, is that when K-State just got physically whipped again for the third game in a row, they got physically beat up, and you're not going to win football games like that. You're just not. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and Monte, we'll have time to talk about the defense, but I walk away from this game feeling like that is the major story. The offense, to be completely honest with you guys, in my view, was a reason why they were only up 13-7 at halftime. Offense has to be better in the first half, right? You can't settle for field goals against a team like that. But you also don't anticipate only getting 2 drives in the second half. And Monte, I'll ask you this: when you're sitting there watching the game as a former defensive guy, and the defense can't get off the field, I mean, what's going through your mind?
It's frustrating, and Big B alluded to it, and you just alluded to 2 different things. First of all, we talked about it prior to the game. Everything starts up front on both sides of the ball. Defensive-wise, offensive-wise, we couldn't move the ball. And I'm going to talk about the offense a little bit. We had a good kickoff return to set us up at half-field, at the middle of the field, at the beginning of the game, and we couldn't capitalize on that. And I said to myself, here we go. It's going to be a long – we can't get 6 points out of that. It's going to be a long game. And anybody who was at the game live could see our O-line was struggling to run the ball in the middle. We couldn't run the ball in the middle to save our lives. We had chances where we got to the edge and a couple of guys made some plays, but we got physically dominated, as Big B alluded to, on both sides of the ball. And in defensive-wise, I couldn't imagine being a defensive lineman constantly getting cut every play, looking up and seeing the quarterback get 3 yards here, 4 yards there, and knowing that it's like we talked about it. If it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, or 4th and 1, they're going for it, and knowing they're probably going to get it. So as a defensive player, that is definitely demoralizing, and it's frustrating. But like you said, I don't place blame on any specific group. The team as a whole lost, but offensive-wise, we got to do better. Something has to change.
And Monte, I'm sitting there from a former lineman's perspective, and Big B, I'm sure you can appreciate this too. When you're going up against the offense like that as a defensive lineman, right, there's only so much that you can do. You are responsible for your guy. And when you are getting cut, they are trying to neutralize you. When you're getting cut, they're basically saying, as long as you don't make the tackle, we've done our job as an offensive lineman. They don't care necessarily about getting to the second level because that offense hits so quickly. If they get 3 yards, that's what they want to do. And it felt like in the second half of the game, the defensive line had very little impact. In the beginning part of the game, they were blowing up blockers. They were forcing 1 or 2 yard gains. But then because of them being on the field for so long, and you know what, as we talk about depth, I question how many guys were truly ready to go on that defensive line, last night. It felt like the linebackers and the secondary and the safeties and the corners that there in run support was not as good as it was in the first half. And Brien, I'll ask you this. I look at that and it feels like no one stepped up and made a play when it mattered most. There was nobody who said, I'm going to go make this tackle. We are going to get off of the field and the offense is going to get the ball back. That never happened.
No. The one thing is K-State doesn't have big athletic defensive linemen. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. I mean, we could address a lot of different stuff on why, but let's just get to the brass tacks of it. They don't have big athletic defensive linemen. And when you don't have that against a team that wants to cut you constantly, like their biggest lineman was 315 pounds at right tackle. Mm-hmm. And if you looked at him, you wouldn't know that he was 300. He's 315 pounds because he's tall. He was 6'4", 6'5". I'm like, they didn't have a bunch of big, beefy guys because, number one, you can't because those guys are in the Army and they're not making those tanks for 360-pound guys. I mean, so I just it was frustrating because we don't have some of the things that you need to combat that. And if you don't have one, you probably need at least 3 to 4 of those guys that you can just constantly rotate in and out. Yep. But we don't have those guys. And so since you don't, then this is the kind of problem. It's they get beat, they get cut, they get hit, and you give up 3 yards. Or even if you're there to make the play, you have no momentum. So when a running back runs into you, then you're going backwards because you're constantly trying to fight off a guy that's at your legs. Well, big athletic defensive linemen can stop that stuff. Mm-hmm. They're athletic enough to get around somebody scrambling at your feet and at your knees. They can scramble around that. And if you don't have that, it becomes a problem. And we never solved it. We just never solved it. And I don't know. It was frustrating because, again, I heard one of your interviews last night, Cole, and I thought it was an outstanding interview. You said death by 1,000 paper cuts. You're exactly right. It's exactly what it was. Just 3 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards. But if you continue to do that and they're never going to punt, right? You get them in 4th and 4. They're going for it.
Right.
And it's just, okay, well, then you got to stop them. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
It was, being around the state of Kansas with high school football, we see that offense a lot. And I'll be honest, guys, when I was preparing for this game, I kind of anticipated Army to go a little bit more out of the shotgun than they did. And in the first half, they did. And I wonder, guys, like how much does the game plan change with Dwayne Coleman as opposed to Cale Helmus, the backup? I mean, we were anticipating Coleman playing that game. Coleman is much more of a get out in space kind of guy. He's more of a thrower than Helmus was. Looking back on it, I almost wonder if they did this on purpose. They knew that Helmus could take a beating, and if they wanted to win this game, they knew they were going to have to run their quarterback. Guys, you guys know he ran the ball 40 times. The quarterback ran the ball 40 times. And, I understand this is a K-State show, but I'm going to take my hat off and I'm going to tip it to that Army offense because what they did was incredibly impressive. Horrible for K-State. Don't get me wrong. Horrible for K-State. And we're going to talk about K-State, but we can't go any further without crediting that Army offense because what they did was really impressive. And Monte, I mean, we talked about this from, a defensive back perspective. Sometimes it gets kind of boring. You're standing out there. But the thing that I noticed with Army was that they were trying to get to the edge a little bit. And it felt like at times the corners were nowhere to be found.
Well, yeah, and you're right. A lot of times, and the corners were taking themselves out of position. You'll see the guys peeking and looking and chasing plays they shouldn't be, and it bit them in the butt later in the game. They ran a halfback toss, a halfback pass, and where was the corner at? Sniffing his nose where it shouldn't have been, and the guys running wide open to get him a large play. But the corners initially were playing physical on the edge at times, but if you watch even the safeties, a lot of times the safeties, they were coming in with their heads down. Fundamentally, they weren't sound. And like you said, the quarterback made us look very average. I wouldn't even say average, below average.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things too. He was basically a quarterback playing, a running back playing quarterback the game, you know. But hats off to him. The guy, when they went to a traditional offense, he threw the ball well, and our backs struggled to cover basic routes. On the flip side, so they had our number, and like Army basically did what most coaches in a position would do. They played to their strengths. They didn't worry about what K-State was going to do. They said, we're good at this. Screw you guys. Try to stop us. And we couldn't.
And before we get to the offense and some more deeper questions that, you know, we're going to be looking at with this program, guys, I want to bring this up. Fitz did an outstanding job setting this live up, and he put the clip of the onside kick in here. And so I want to play this. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, but I want to play this clip once again, and then we will we'll discuss this, because I felt like special teams had a pretty good night, guys. It looked like things were getting corrected right up until they weren't.
Feels that the ball touched the receiving team member and recovered by the kicking team. First down, Army.
You see, that was a designed attempt at kicking the ball right into the front line.
So first of all, Louis Reddick is completely 100% right. Brien, first of all, have you seen this executed at the Division I level before? Because I haven't.
I mean, I don't even know. First of all, I heard the back and forth between Fitz and Coach Kleiman. Coach Kleiman's wrong, and he knows he's wrong.
He is.
And instead of just saying he's wrong, he's trying to cover for a kid. You didn't expect them to kick an onside kick, and it's okay to say that. I don't know why that was such a big deal. Like, we didn't expect it. Okay, great. You didn't expect it. The kid bailed out. Nobody's blaming him. They kicked the ball 100 miles an hour, and it hit him directly in the leg. What do you expect them to do? I mean, even if he was expecting an onside kick, are we sure that what is he, Mike Schmidt, supposed to field it, like a third baseman? Come on, man. I mean, what are we doing here? It's crazy. I don't know. I've seen it done before, but it's usually in a situation where everybody's expecting an onside kick. So I've seen it work, but this was just a case to where, hey, I don't know that we can cover them. Our kickoff team can cover them. So we're just going to try to kick it and hit them and squib it, blah, 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 blah. And that's what happened. But I don't know. Coach Kleiman was 1,000,000% wrong. I have no idea why he's trying to defend, because nobody was blaming anybody. All they said was, hey, you were bailing out. They were bailing out. Well, we were expecting it. Well, no, you weren't, Coach. No, you weren't. Because if you were expecting an onside kick, why didn't you have your hands team out there?
Exactly.
So stop with the nonsense. Just stop.
This comment here, Monte, I'll let you go. I've seen it in high school ball. I'll say this. Well, it doesn't really happen in college because these are Division I athletes, and you're not expecting that to happen. It might work in high school when you have, poor little Johnny, who is 5'10", 150 pounds on the front line, who can't get an A in his American history class. But doesn't normally work, because you got these massive human beings compared to everybody else that are playing college football. Go ahead, Monte.
No, I agree with Big B 100%. I bet if you were to ask Army's coach, special teams coach, and if they were to be 100% transparent, it wasn't an onside kick. Like B said, it was a squib kick. And the reason why they squibbed the kickoff before, we housed it. So we're thinking to ourselves, we can't cover their kickoff team. And think about it, going back to the first kickoff of the game, we returned it to the 50-yard line. So if I'm a special teams coach, I'm like, quick kicking it deep, keep it on the ground, try to get a good bounce to slow them down so they can't set up their blocking schemes and give us a chance on defense. So I guarantee if you were to ask Army's special team coach that, he would say, yes, the intentions was to squib kick it to slow them down. Luck of the draw was they hit the front line guy, bounced perfectly back to us, we'll take the ball. So I don't think it was between not being ready for onside. If I'm K-State special team coach, hey, be squib kick alert, but still also be ready to block your guy. But I don't think it was an intentional onside kick. It was a great squib kick that happened to hit the guy on the leg and bounce back to Army. So it is what it is. And like you said, Coach Kleiman may say what he want to, but that's ultimately what I saw, and I truly believe that's what happened.
And I'll say this about this, guys, before we move on. Maybe, and Brien, maybe they weren't expecting an onside kick, but the other possibility here is that the guy who's in charge of setting up the returns told the head coach through the headset, hey, we reminded him about the onside kick. We told him that it's a possibility. And maybe that's true. And Kleiman is just being completely 100% transparent. Or as you were right, maybe he just didn't want to throw anybody under the bus, which I think may be more of the case. I see somebody in the chat say that's not the reason they lost the game. Yeah, you're right. That's not the main reason they lost the game, but we're kidding ourselves if we're not saying that isn't a major reason why they lost the game. If K-State's able to get that ball at the 50-yard line and they go get points, it becomes very difficult for Army to come back in this game. That didn't single-handedly lose them the game. K-State had other opportunities, but I mean, at that moment, after Army got that kick, you knew it was going to be a very realistic possibility that Army came back and won this game. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys have said. Let's talk about
Cole, let me pull up something here. There's a question here, and I want Monte and you to kind of drive. I mean, I have my thoughts on it because I know the answer, but I want you guys to look at this. I thought this was a great question. Why did K-State's D get tired, but Army's O didn't?
Monte, go ahead.
Because when you momentum, first of all, if you and B can tell you this on O-line, if you guys are going to hurry up offense or offensive line and you're being successful and you're moving the ball and it can be pass game or run game, I don't care who you are, your energy level is going to be a lot higher than the opposite side. Because if you're moving the ball and you see these guys are being gassed, your momentum, that adrenaline is going. You're like, get on the line, go. Watch your hurry up offense. Those big linemen are bigger than most of the times D linemen. But yet when they're moving the ball, they get lined up, they get set on to the next play. When you're getting your butt kicked every play, you're frustrated. You're looking for somebody like, hey, coach, get me out. What's going on? And your focus is not there. And you won't be able to continue to fight the same way, play in and play out, if it's not being successful. That's the big reason in my eyes why K-State guys were getting pushed around and Army had the momentum. And there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. I always look at it like this because people ask me that. I was like, it's not that offensive linemen don't get tired. I used to get tired all the time. But here's the thing. Think about when you're pushing furniture. When you push furniture, you could push it 100 yards. You're going to be tired. But now think about it as that furniture pushing you. You have to stop that furniture from pushing you and then go run and go tackle somebody. That takes a lot more effort than me just pushing the furniture 100 yards. So you got to keep that in perspective when you're talking about defense. That's why they rotate guys in and out, because it's like, yes, okay, I'm stopping this guy from trying to move me against my will, but then I have to get off of that guy, disengage, go run, and then tackle another human being. That is why it gets so tiring. So I love that question because a lot of people, they just don't understand it. And there's no fault, but I love the question. But that's how I used to explain it to everybody. I go, I could push this 100 yards. This sled, I could push it 100 yards. I'll be tired at the end of it. But now keep somebody from pushing you 100 yards, getting rid of it, and then go running 10 to 15 yards to tackle everybody, and do that 5 times in a row. And then see how tired you are versus me just pushing the sled. It's not even in the same realm of fatigue, should I say.
You're right. You're right.
But I love the question, though.
Yeah. And I'm going to add on to that real quick, kind of as a defensive back. People don't understand. As a defensive back, I hated playing guys that can scramble. Like, I couldn't imagine being a D-back playing against Michael Bishop. First of all, you got guys that can run routes. If you're a corner or a safety and you're chasing guys 10 and 15 yards down the field and man coverage, and all of a sudden the quarterback breaks the pocket and you got to chase him down, and he's just as big as you and as physical as you, and try to tackle him, kind of like B said, that ain't fair. but it happens. And so, yeah, that's why you got to have depth. We don't have that depth to rotate guys in without a drop-off.
Yep, and I'm happy you bring up the dual threat quarterback because that's where I'm going to go next. Only instead of Army's dual threat quarterback, I'm going to look at K-State and this Kansas State offense. We alluded to it at the top of the show, guys, but they did not get the ball. They had four offensive snaps through the first, 15 minutes and 12 minutes of the fourth quarter. So what is that? 27 minutes. They had the ball for 4 plays of the first 27 of the first 27 minutes in the second half. It's incredible. And the play count, I want to say, was 82 to 43 at the end of the game. It's not something, guys, I've ever seen. I'll be completely honest. I've never seen that in a college football game before. Maybe you guys have, but when K-State's offense was out there, you can't even really look at the second half because I'm not gonna say that the reason they lost this game is because the offense didn't go down and score a touchdown on their second drive of the second half. It just so happened to be their last drive of the second half. Obviously, they had the opportunity. Joe Jackson catches a football. Jerron Tibbs catches a football over the middle of the field. Brien, you talked about it. Guys have to help out Avery. That needs to happen. I think if Jerron Tibbs catches that ball, they probably win this game. It gets called back, and then on 3rd and 10, Avery Johnson throws the tipped interception to Army. Great catch by that kid, by the way. But I'm not ready to say that, the offense in the second half is the reason they lost the game. I don't know if people are out there saying that, but it's impossible. And Brien, I'll go for you on this one. It feels like it's impossible to get into a rhythm when you're literally never on the field.
That's true, but they had an opportunity though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's they had an opportunity to be on the field and they went 3 and out.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to maximize, because again, it's Coach Kleiman talked about it. He said that they talked to the kids about, hey, you may be on the bench for a total of 20, not game time minutes, but real minutes, 20 minutes sitting there, and you have to get up and going. So you have to maximize your opportunities. Well, it comes back to hey, why can't we run the football? Like the K-State ran for 74 yards. And you might say, well, they couldn't get into a rhythm. Well, the first play of the game, we got stuffed because, well, I'm not going to get into names. That'll be something off the air. But 2 of our offensive linemen can't reach block and then let a linebacker run right past them. I'm like, what are we doing here? Yeah. So you can't run the football. So they had their opportunities to be out there. Even if K-State, let's just say, couldn't get them off the field. Well, why couldn't you be out there for 10-plus plays?
Right.
You had your opportunities to be out there for 10-plus plays, but you didn't. Instead, you went 3 and out, and that's your fault. And not only did you go 3 and out, the defense had done their job. Because remember, Army got the ball to start the second half. They did go 3 and out. Give us an opportunity. It's like, okay, great. We can go down. We can score. We can start putting some distance between us and go from there. Instead, we go 3 and out, and that'll do it. That was the start of the downfall.
Yep. Monte, I look at this offensive line, and Brien, I'm glad you brought that up. Terrence Enos and JB Nelson did not play in this game. Didn't know that was going to be a thing. They were ruled out at the kind of as a late scratch, according to Chris Kleiman. So they had some interesting offensive line combinations in there. Amos Talalele from USC got his first snaps. We'll talk about, the more in-depth stuff later on in the week. I actually didn't think he did a horrible job. But again, when you run the ball for, as I look at the sheet here, 15, Avery Johnson was 15 of 25 through the air for 172 yards, guys. But the leading rusher on the day was Joe Jackson with 7 carries for 32 yards. Like, you're not going to win. I don't care who you're playing. You could be playing Podunk State. You're not going to win. And they have to fix this. I mean, there's no other way around it. They just have to fix this.
And we talked about it, and it's an old saying, it starts up front, and it does. And we can sit here and nitpick and talk about it, but into K-State offensive line, the coaches, the players involved, whoever decide that, you know what, we're going to impose our will. And so they decide that, like, wholeheartedly, and not just say it. It starts today, beginning of the week. Workouts, weights, communication, like B said, wanting to get a reach block. It's one thing to know I got to get it, but how bad do you really want to get to that next level to get that guy's head off so the backer won't run clean and tackle your running back 2 yards in the backfield? And it's mentality. And it's one of those things too where if you look at all 3 games we've played this year, these guys don't want it. I know there might be some guys individually that want it, but collectively, we don't want it. And Army, if you were at the game yesterday, like I saw their fans were more confident than a lot of times we were. Their players on the sideline, they were confident. And I look over our sideline, you got guys having side conversations, laughing, doing dumb stuff while we're down and not focusing on the game. So I don't know. I'm not going to say, I hate the word culture because it's used so loosely, but I don't know what the culture is right now with the team. We don't have an identity. And we used to have an identity where, if we can't pass the ball, we're going to run it down your throat, and you can't stop us. But if we have both, great. Right now, we don't have either or. So I don't know what's going on, but it does start up front. And going back to that first drive of the game, I said to myself, we're going to run the ball. And sure enough, we did. Why? What is it? What's the issue? Why can't we do like some other teams do? They give you that pre-snap looks. They give you 2 and 3 pre-snap looks before they snap the ball to see how the defense is going to adjust. What do? We go up there, line up, let the defense make the call, and they're ready. I don't understand that. Try something different. I'm confused. I'm frustrated, and something has to change.
That 4th and 1, guys, where K-State ran up to the line and they were in the I formation and they just ran halfback dive. Oh my God. Brien helped me with that. I was sitting up there and I could not understand for the life of me. I'm like, oh, cool. They're going to run up there. Somebody's going to shift out. They're going to drop back. They're going to run something. No, we're just going to turn around and hand it to the fullback and run behind an offensive line that hasn't been able to get a push all game. That I don't understand that.
But the thing is, and it goes back to this, and I was going to save this to maybe a summary, but I'll throw it out here right now, is for the last 10 to 12 years, look, Kansas State hasn't had the best athletes of all the other teams that they have played. It's just that simple. They just haven't. Back in the day when me and you played, we matched up athletically with everybody, but it hasn't been the case over the last 10 to 12 years. But how Kansas State has always competed is because, number one, they had a little bit of imagination on the offensive side of the football. And number two, they always had an offensive line that was big, physical, athletic, could block in space, could move guys, could do a lot of different things. They always had that. So you could always combat when somebody had better athletes to where, you know what, we're going to be smarter than you and more clever than you on offense. But you know what? We also have this offensive line that we can run behind. K-State doesn't have that. And they didn't have it last year. I go, so that is the problem. And maybe again, like we talked, or like I said at the beginning, not enough truth telling is going on about what the real issue is. That's the issue. When you can't line up against Army or against North Dakota, and you can't run the football right down their throat, no matter what you want to run, that means you have an offensive line problem. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I don't care if they knew what was coming. I don't care if you told them right before the snap, we're running right behind me. What are you going to do about it? And that's the problem. They don't have a good enough offensive line to do that. So if you don't, the only thing you can do is be imaginative. You can't just be so simple-minded and so simplistic that you can just run this when you don't have the Joes. It's always about the Jimmies and Joes. Well, if you don't have them, you got to do something. If not, this is going to be a 2-win football team, people. And that's not overreacting. That's just telling it like it is. We have to do something. At some point, somebody's got to do something.
Yep.
And I'm sorry to be negative. I apologize. But I don't know that I'm being negative versus just being honest.
No.
You're speaking facts.
And you know what, guys? I'll say this. I think that the passing game for the first 3 games of the season, the concepts, we can talk about the execution. I think the concepts have actually been pretty good against Iowa State. Matt Wells and that offensive coaching staff schemed open guys. Guys were running wide open.
Wide open.
Against North Dakota, Jace Brown did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
Guys were running wide open. It wasn't always the execution. Avery Johnson didn't play that good of a game against North Dakota. You come back against Army, this is probably one of the better games that Avery Johnson's had throwing the football. He made some mistakes, but I don't understand how the execution in the run game doesn't match up to the execution in the pass game. I don't know. And guys, I want to bring this up because there's some people in the chat who are bringing this up. And as we kind of transition to the final part of the show here, I think this has kind of been something that's gone around on social media. If Avery leaves, he's going to go somewhere and look like Johnny freaking football. I'm going to say this about Avery, and this is something that I've kind of been waiting to say. I think that Avery Johnson is very, very K-State. And the reason he's K-State right now is because he is the face of this football program. It's not Chris Kleiman. When people think of K-State right now nationally, they think of Avery Johnson. There's a whole lot of reasons for that, but that is the guy who everyone looks at. And it feels like that right now, Avery is kind of stuck between trying to be a leader between trying to call somebody out, because if you listen to his post-game comments, he's not afraid to do that. You know, I feel like he is kind of in that transitional period as a leader between trying to figure out, Brien, as we always talk about on our shows, how to be that a-hole and how to be a nice guy who everyone wants to rally around and play for. And that's not something to take lightly. I think this is going to be a major week of self-reflection for Avery, not because of his play on the field, but because of his leadership style. And people want to blame this on NIL, and that's fine. But the reality of the situation, ain't nobody leaving in the middle of the season. You're all on this ship together, so you better figure it out, or else everybody's going to be miserable until the end of November. And that has to be that message inside the locker room. And, you know, I'm interested to see how Avery comes out and plays, because I saw a guy on Saturday who wanted to win. I saw a guy who was doing everything in his power to get his team down the field to score a touchdown. And for people who question Avery, for people who say that he just wants the money, quite honestly, I think they're full of crap. But I want to get your guys' opinion on this, because as a leader, this feels like, I mean, not just on Avery, but those leaders in the locker room need to take accountability for the past 3 games. There's built-in excuses for the last 2 games, but there ain't no excuse for this game. And, you know, as someone who has seen teams rally, you know, I think back to some of the great K-State teams. You know, we can talk about 2022. I don't think this team has the same depth that team did, but those leaders stepped up and made sure that things changed. I don't know how they go, and I don't know where they go from here, guys, but it's on these leaders to make sure that this doesn't happen again, or else, as you said, this will be a 2-win football team.
Can I chime in? I agree with you. I think Avery is bought in, but I think also he needs more support, and not just from his teammates, but his coaches, and his coaches have to let him be. They got to let him be the player that he is. I understand you have a certain scheme and concept that you want to run if you coach Wells, and he does a phenomenal job in the pass game. I agree with you on that. He does some good job schemes getting guys open, but his supporting cast got to step up. And on the flip side too, I think if anybody's going to be a leader or is a leader of defense, is Austin Romaine. He actually played a good game. I know he was beat, tired, but we know he made some good plays late, and Purnell did as well. But on both sides of the ball, we need guys to step up. And a lot of times people talk about NIL and being bought in, but I think these young men, and I'll tell a story. We were playing Texas Tech back in the day, the first Big 12 game ever, and I wasn't a starter. I was a nickelback guy. And I remember coming into the game late in the first quarter, and Deshaun Fogel was one of our backers. And this is the kind of relationship we had as a team. I go in, and he goes, "They're in so-and-so personnel." And he looks at me, he goes, "And don't F up," point blank. And I didn't get offended by it, but I didn't want to let my teammates down. And the fact that I saw the guys on the field had that same fire as I did, you know, and we went on to win the game. But it's one of those things where I don't see that from our guys. And hopefully the leaders, the guys who are the leaders, have that same mentality to get on your teammate, and hopefully the guys they're getting on don't take offense to it. But I feel like a lot of times guys, when they do try to motivate, they take offense to it, and it end up being more of a hamper than a help. So I don't know, but I think Avery, he's not vocal, but I can see his body language on the field, wants to be there. Now during practice, I don't know because I'm not there, but I think he wants to be here and he wants to win. But that's just my opinion.
No, I think you're right, Monte. I think both of you are right, number one. And Cole, I don't think you went far enough, to be honest with you, because I know you're pissed off about all of it, and you should be. I am. The problem is, Avery, you're right, Monte. Avery needs help. I go, it's not that he's played perfect. I mean, he played a good game, but then you look around, it's like, okay, well, he threw a bad pass that got intercepted to end the football game. That happened too. But it shouldn't have come down to that. Yep. That's the whole point. It's like it shouldn't have come down to that. In this era of NIL and the transfer portal and all this stuff, I'm not surprised about anything. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Monday you get a press conference, Avery says, "I'm redshirting and I'm transferring." I wouldn't be surprised about any of that stuff in these days. Now, I don't think any of that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I think sometimes as fans, we get locked into how things were 15, 20 years ago, and they are not that way anymore. Having said all of that, everybody has to do their job. Everybody has to bond together and step up and say enough is enough. I've said it over and over again, and I know you guys agree. There's just not anybody. There's too many nice guys in the locker room. We have a team full of nice guys. And look, it's not about me going back and talking about something that happened 30 years ago. You can go into any locker room of any of those teams that were in the college football playoff last year. All of those locker rooms. And I guarantee you there were 10 to 15 guys in all of those locker rooms that people didn't like hanging out with, but loved that they were on their football team.
Yep.
That is the difference. Kansas State does not have any of those guys, because how you know that? You can see it on the field. You can see that guy on the field. And it's not that we have privy to what goes on in the locker room. You don't have to be in the locker room to see it on the field. You don't have to be in there to see what's going on. It shines through the field. People gravitate to that person. That guy's out there running his mouth, making plays. And I'm not talking about causing penalties or doing anything. Just the guy that gets everybody fired up and yelling and screaming. And yes, is going to push a guy if something comes. I saw it the first game. I'm never going to back off of it. When Austin Romaine got surrounded on the sidelines at Iowa State and nobody from Kansas State went over there to go fight for him.
Yep.
They didn't go save him. They didn't go push people. They just let him get surrounded. And then 5 or 6 seconds later, okay, some guys came over there. I'm like, wow, couldn't believe it. That's what we're missing, guys. We're missing people that are going to literally put it on the line if push comes to shove. If you don't have that, you don't have a good football team. And right now, Kansas State does not have a good football team.
Yep.
They just don't.
Remember when we talked before the show, guys, before we started recording, I brought up the Chiefs. And Brien, it reminds me, I know the Chiefs lost on Friday. You guys saw that replay. Drew Tranquil yelling at Chris Jones.
Absolutely.
Bingo.
I mean, Chris Jones, future Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion. Drew Tranquil, same thing. Not a Hall of Famer, not even one of the better players on the defense, but he's holding his star player accountable. Travis Kelce getting in the face of Jawan Taylor, a guy who's won a Super Bowl. Travis Kelce does not need to play football. That guy, he doesn't need to play football, but he wants to win. If those guys are getting paid millions and millions and millions upon dollars to play football, there's no reason that this Kansas State team can't hold each other accountable. It looks different. I get that. And maybe they are, and we don't see it, but it doesn't happen on Saturdays. And at what point does enough become enough, right? Like that was always my thing as a player. Like, when do you say, okay, all right, Ireland, I understand that excuse, right? As a player, you can kind of rationalize it. And then the next week, well, we'll get better. We beat North Dakota. That's all that matters. You know, we're better than that. So next week we'll be better. Well, guess what? You just lost to Army. So when do you put your foot down and you say, you know what, this crap ain't happening anymore? And I put that on the players. The coaches, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it, guys. And at what point do the players have to say enough is enough? Because this is
right.
It's time for them to step up. I'm putting the onus on the players to step up and say, we have to make changes.
Yeah. If I'm a player in this locker room this morning when I get up, first of all, I hope none of the players went out last night. If they did, they need to be kicked off the team. I'm sorry. You shouldn't
Immediately.
You should face it in public, and especially go out and party after that showing last night. And regardless, even if we would have won the game, you should be focused on other things at this point. But if I'm a player in today's team, I woke up this morning, I thank the good Lord for another day, but I'm like, you know what? Here's my situation. We're 1-2. We're 0-1 in the conference, and we have a game Friday. So it's a short week for us. Either I'm going to make my mind up to be all in or all out. And I need to be honest with myself, and I need to be honest with my teammates, need to be honest with each other. And if I'm going to look at anything, look at the positive. The positive is it's still early in the season. You only have one conference loss. I'm not saying Iowa State's going to run the table, but they could. But here's the thing about it. You take it one game at a time. The positive is there are no significant injuries. We could potentially get some guys back that hadn't been able to play. And we're on the road in Arizona, which isn't the hardest environment to play in. And especially with it being on a Friday night, it might not be as a tough crowd that you would be on a Saturday. You could potentially go to Arizona and still a win. Hopefully you're less stressed, less pressure on you because you're not at home in front of friends and family. And you go into that game probably the underdog, as you should be, and play loose. And you go on the road and get a win. And you refocus. And you know what? Now we're back on the winning track. We can look at some positive and build up what we do. If I'm a current player, that's my state of mind. But then again, on the flip side too, are they feeling sorry for themselves? as everybody pointing the fingers. It's never my fault. It's your fault. And it could be totally opposite. But I'm hoping these guys have that attitude starting today going into Friday's game.
And Big B, before you go, I want to put our super chat up here. I've been meaning to get to this.
Yeah.
Thanks for the super chat. David, he says, can we just go after Colin Klein? I'm not impressed with Matt Wells. Well, David, I don't think Colin Klein's coming back to Kansas State as an offensive coordinator.
No.
That's what I'll say.
He was already here.
Yeah. If you want Colin Klein to come back to Kansas State, maybe he'd come back as a head coach. I don't know when that would be. I personally think that he probably needs another few years as an offensive coordinator or to go be a head coach somewhere else first. But if you want him as a head coach or if you want him as an offensive coordinator, I don't think that's coming back. Also from Finally Tuned, really, really appreciate this valuable content. Thank you. We appreciate everybody so much for watching. And, it's things like this that I hope fans will understand. This is not a fun time to be a player. It's not a fun time to be a coach. But it's even a worse time to be a fan. And I understand that fans want success. Fans want wins. And that's what we're here to talk about, Brien. So Monte brings up a good point. And as we wrap up, I do want to get with this because they've played 3 games. And it is, as we record this, September 7th. K-State's played 3 games before the NFL has played 1 game. Mm-hmm. And so that is where we are in the season. And it feels like this thing can get off the tracks very quickly. But this is still the exact same team that we all thought was going to be a pretty good football team before the season. They just have to go out and prove it.
Well, the one thing is maybe we were wrong.
Yeah.
I think we have to leave that as a possibility that we were all wrong about how good this football team is. But the next thing is that we got to find some leaders. And I know a lot of people, and we put a lot of pressure on Avery Johnson to necessarily be the leader. He makes the most money. He's the face of the program. He's the quarterback. But I will just go back to and take it to pro football. Remember Eli Manning? Eli Manning played in New York. Eli Manning was not the leader of the New York Giants. He made the most money. He was the face of the franchise. He was the quarterback. But he was not the leader of those football teams. That just wasn't his personality. And he didn't try to fake it and be a guy that he wasn't because he understood. First of all, those are grown men. They're going to see right through anything that people are doing that are fake. I go, so you can't just fake being a leader. So it's not that I'm saying Avery can't be a leader. I'm saying maybe his personality doesn't lead him to be that, which is okay. That's not a flawed trait in somebody to be the alpha dog of a bunch of people, because if he was, we'd start seeing it. And you can't fake it, because even as teenagers or young men, college kids, you can see when somebody's being fake. You understand that. Mm-hmm. But they got to find some leaders, and the leaders can't just be the coaches. Do we need to hold the coaches accountable? Sure we do. But you got to find some leaders in that locker room. The season is not lost. So regardless of all the stuff that we said today, Monty's right. Go to Arizona and just win a snap, and then win the next snap, and then win the next snap. Break it down to that. Don't talk about winning a game. No. Win a rep.
Yep.
You win a rep, and then go win the next rep. And then you know what? Then you win a drive. Yep. Then you win a quarter. Then you go on from there. I go, that's where we got to break it down to. Somebody in the comments said, go back to basics. Well, that's what the basics are. Literally, one rep at a time, one snap at a time, go win it. And then go win the next one. If they can't break it down and do it that way, that's where the problem is really going to come into play. Because if you're trying to think 2, 3, 4 steps down the line, I'm sorry, guys, we're not good enough to do that right now. Mm-hmm. We need to win this play. And then we're going to go win, and everybody win the play. Not just offensive lineman, quarterback, wide receiver. Everybody has to win their play and then win the next play. And continue to do that. And when we do, good things will happen, I promise. But it's got to start there. It's got to, and on the defensive side of the ball, same thing. Win the play. Just win the play and then go to the next play. When we do that, guys, things will get better. Now, it's hard to see that from where we're sitting right now. But I'm telling you, it's an old adage, but it always works. It always works. Just win the play and then go to the next play. It's that simple.
Monty, closing thoughts from you?
I 100% agree with Big B. And as he was talking, I was thinking to myself, back to basics, fundamentals, man, the little things. And Coach Snyder used to preach that. The little things wins games. And that's what we got to look at. We can't look too far ahead. We can't look to the past either. Look at the play ahead of you. But he's right. Back to basics, fundamentals. We have the talent, but we have to do it as a group. Well, individually, first of all, and as a group consistently. And like you said, the season's not lost. And it's crazy. I won't be able to watch the game Friday because I'll be coaching. But as crazy as it sounds, I'm excited to see how if we can bounce back. And I'm excited to come back the following week and talk about that game. And hopefully our guys have the same attitude. But it sucks to be where we're at. But thankfully, it's early in the season.
The sun came up this morning. There is 9 more football games left to play, and K-State has a big opportunity. They have a chance right now. Their backs are against the wall. They're going to go into a hostile environment on the road, and we're going to see what this team is made of. We might think that they're not any good. We might think that there's still some hope. But I think come 5 days from now, we're going to find out a lot about this team. One thing I do know is that I absolutely love doing these podcasts with you guys because you bring so much valuable information, and I think your perspectives really help fans kind of understand that the football season is a marathon, and sometimes it feels like a sprint, but every game is self-contained, and that's what makes this game great, is because you can learn so many things about a football team from one game, but there's still so many quarters and plays left to go. And we will be here to talk about all of it, through the good, through the bad, through the ugly, through the amazing. We will be here. And we really appreciate everyone so much for tuning in this morning. Appreciate you listening on the podcast. If that's where you caught it, we will have all of our regularly scheduled content coming back at you this week. Everything's moved up a day because of the Friday game, but we will be here. So for Brien, Hanley, Monte Spiller, I am Cole Carmody. Thanks everybody so much for watching, and we will talk to you next week.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.